A very good morning, Team Zimbabwe. Welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And my name is Ronald Makosha. This morning, we need to take a look onto the final report, which was submitted by the SADC to the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe. So, the report was initially published, written on the 25th of September, but it was recently published to the public so that everyone can see and scrutinize it and know what are the contents of that report. So it's very important for us to take a look onto the contents of this final report so that we understand what it means for the people of the Republic of Zimbabwe. So there is something very important here, which is right here onto the screen. This report was clear. It says that Zim elections fell short of constitution and SADC principles. So Triple C, they had an opportunity to actually scrutinize this report and come up with a very bold conclusion. And we need to take a look onto that. So the SADC Electoral Observation Mission, they submitted their final report on the harmonized elections, which were held in Zimbabwe for the 23rd to the 24th of August. And the report itself strongly supports the Triple C's demand for fresh elections. And it reveals numerous glaring irregularities that occurred during the recently ended elections. There are such a number of things which were highlighted in the report, which are very important, and so many recommendations were made to the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe. And those recommendations support strongly Triple C's call for fresh elections, because if there are recommendations, it means those things were not done properly. So what it means is there was no election. You cannot say there was an election when there are a lot of irregularities and abnormalities within the elections in terms of how it was conducted, in terms of how everything went on. So according to the report, these elections fell short of the requirements outlined in the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Electoral Act, as well as the SADC principles and guidelines governing democratic elections 2021. And this report, it highlights the notorious and shadow group of FAS, which is Forever Associates of Zimbabwe, which engaged in acts of terror before, during, and after the elections across the country. How did they engage in the acts of terror? These groupings of FAS were established in each and every ward across Zimbabwe, and their duty was to walk house by house, intimidating villagers, telling them about, or reminding them about the 2008 horrors, reminding them about the short sleeve and the long sleeve, and telling them clearly, kuti hondo iri kuuya if you vote for the opposition, if you vote for Nelson Chamisa, hondo iri kuuya. And in some parts, people were victimized physically and directly, and nothing was happening to these comrades of FAS. That is the reason why citizens believed that indeed this was going to happen. So, additionally, this report captures the controversy surrounding the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, MOPA, which banned and disrupted more than 108 of Triple C rallies and meetings. And the MOPA Act, it requires notifying the Zimbabwe Republic Police of any campaign activities. But what happened is that the police was banning Triple C rallies on multiple times. And that on its own, you would see that Triple C was not given time to campaign, adequate time to campaign, as compared to ZANU-PF. They had access to all the electorates in every area. But Triple C didn't have it. ZANU-PF used the Zimbabwe United Passenger Company's buses, but that the same was not accorded to Triple C. So you could actually see how this election was dubious. So there is a report that exposes the manipulation of the delimitation processes by ZEC. And this shows that there was a collaboration between ZANU-PF and ZEC in terms of coming out with bogus delimitation processes. So what they were doing is that they were saying this is a stronghold of Triple C. They will remove part of that stronghold to make sure that they completely make Triple C lose in a certain area. And it was happening. I'll give you an example. If you go to Mwenezi, there are two wards, Ward 2 and Ward 13. Part of Ward 2 was removed and placed to Ward 13 because Ward 13 was perceived to be a stronghold of ZANU-PF. So they removed another stronghold of Triple C. They placed it onto the stronghold of ZANU-PF. But this stronghold of Triple C was smaller than that of ZANU-PF. What it means is Ward 2, which had chances of winning this election, they ended up failing because of how that gerrymandering was done. If you take a look into that issue, the boundary was supposed to be the railway line, but you find that another part is on the other side of the railway line, and another part is on the other side of the railway line. Something which is so scandalous and difficult to understand how they read to such a conclusion. So the issues of the voters' roll, it was also raised, and they talked about the printing, the storage, and the distribution, which were kept secret. The printing of the ballot papers, the designing of the ballot papers, the storage, the distribution, and this resulted in, number one, the design itself. It was designed in a crooked way, where you have 5 on the other side and 6 on the other side. It has never happened. Then we talk about how the faces of President Nelson Chamisa were not seen on the ballot papers. Then we talk about the distribution. In Harare, in Matabeleland, in Manicaland, these are strongholds of triples, complete strongholds. Ballot papers were not distributed in time, and that made a lot of people not to vote. We had over 2 million people who failed to cast their votes in this election, and the majority of them were affected by late distribution of the ballot papers. So also the voters' roll, which was used in the past election, it remains unknown. So Triple C was put in a tight corner. And they say, furthermore, deliberate actions aimed at frustrating potential voters in Triple C strongholds were observed. And we've talked about the failure to deliver voting materials on the polling day, which resulted in over 2 million voters being unable to cast their votes. It's very important to note that the law says 3 days before, every voting material at the polling station. So assured the SEOM and other stakeholders about the availability, about the readiness of necessary voting materials, which include ballot papers. And they said everything is there, everything is ready. But on the final voting day, we hear stories. So you see that this was a direct collusion, and it's very important to also note that this report highlighted how ZANU-PF used their own relatives and friends to be part of the commission of Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. And that created something very, 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 very scandalous and embarrassing. How can relatives, daughters of the leaders of ZANU-PF be part of the commissioners, be part of the referees? Just imagine you are playing a match between Arsenal and Liverpool, and the referee is the son of the owner of Liverpool, a direct beneficiary of Liverpool is the referee. How does that feel? How does that look like? Then there's an issue of torture, abductions, and killings. So many people were injured, were tortured, some were killed. We have that guy, Chitsunge. We have so many people who suffered at the hands of ZANU-PF. So, you know, this report then captures something very important, and this gives us direction. We have to note that the report said internal remedies must be exhausted, or domestic remedies must be exhausted. But the same report, it highlights that the judicial system is captured by ZANU-PF government. And that is highlighted through the judges getting 400,000 loans. Who does that towards an election? To give judges 400,000 loans which they will never pay back. And that was a clear sign of judicial capture. If you take a look on how they were dealing with matters during these elections, one would wonder, what kind of judiciary is this? ZANU-PF is allowed to do rallies. CCC is being banned by the police. They go to the courts. Their cases are dismissed. And that did not provide a conducive environment or atmosphere for a credible election. So you see that that is the reason why CCC is calling for a transitional authority. And they are saying SADC must support in this call. And a transitional authority must be established to oversee fresh elections and have a fresh new electoral environment, which means the current Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which is not trusted, will be disbanded. So this is what is here in Zimbabwe, very important things. So what is next for Nelson Chamisa? His call for fresh elections is still being considered right now. And there is a greater possibility that President Nelson Chamisa's call is going to be supported by SADC, because SADC has finally given this report, and they have noted several issues, several recommendations, which shows that this election was done in a dubious manner. The recommendations are too much. So there are a lot of issues which are highlighted, and President Nelson Chamisa has clearly managed to articulate that the judiciary in Zimbabwe is captured and cannot be trusted. The maneuvers right now, which are being done by ZANU-PF to record CCC MPs, are a clear testimony and indication of capture. So you will see that we are heading towards interesting moments, and a lot of people are saying that it's over for CCC, but personally, I don't believe that it's over. In my view, I see this as a fertile ground for CCC to come back and claim what was stolen by ZANU-PF. So it is what it is in Zimbabwe. This report, according to this powerful analysis from CCC, it shows that CCC does have an upper hand to maneuver and call for re-election in the nation of Zimbabwe. The question is, how are we going to make SADC take this as this whole thing urgently? That is very important, because we have seen ZANU-PF trying everything possible within their means to stop CCC quickly and to try and discredit CCC. Right now, they've created an impression that the CCC is divided, President Nelson Chamisa is a dictator, and so forth. So that SADC countries won't take Nelson Chamisa in this party seriously. But are they going to succeed? Personally, I doubt. So this is what we had for you in Zimbabwe at this moment in time. And thank you very much for tuning in. Let me take a look onto the comments which are here and see if I can respond. So, Anzi Panapa, this final report is not powerful enough to condemn the elections. Jonathan Patrick Marway, one thing I have highlighted is that this report is enough to condemn the Zimbabwean elections. Why? It has been submitted to President Mnangagwa, it has been submitted to ZEC, it has been submitted to other stakeholders, it has also been submitted to the SADC chair. So what it means is this report, one way or the other, it will be tabled before the SADC Troika. So once it is tabled before SADC, then SADC is mandated to act onto this report. The question is, how are they going to act? When are they going to act? So as much as I'm concerned, I believe that there is a fertile ground for SADC to actually call for an extraordinary summit to deliberate and deal with this final report, because all those recommendations, they were diplomatically inserted. SADC organ on politics and defense cannot order for a re-election, but they give recommendations. And when recommendations are more than what was done correctly, what it means is what was expected in an election, when what went wrong is more than half of what was expected. What it means is SADC will have to say, what went there? Do you think you were elected? Because remember, the same president who is there will one day need SADC. Zvikange zvashata muZimbabwe, he will need SADC to say, look what they are doing at me. I was elected by the people. And SADC will ask questions. How were you elected? So the role of SADC is to avoid conflicts, is to deal with conflicts before they happen. So that is the reason why I believe that it is going to be very difficult for SADC to ignore this report. And the only question we have is, what is SADC going to suggest? SADC might suggest to have an internal discussion, and that internal discussion, they might make propositions of a unity government, and that is going to create trouble, because CCC is going to reject that. That is the reason why they are trying to destroy CCC before even SADC comes in, so that there won't be any CCC to talk about going forward. If there's a possibility of an election being called, you will see kuti kunenge kwane imwe CCC yakutungamirwa nemakoronyera aya. What it means is they are trying to force Nelson Chamisa to have another outfit, so that they continuously create confusion and chaos. But I don't believe that ZANU-PF is going to succeed this time around. Thank you very much, Team Zimbabwe, for these contributions. My time is up. I've gone beyond my time allocation. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for the support. Let us continue to watch and see what is going to happen next.